was 17 that summer, on the edge of something I didn't fully understand. Freedom, maybe. My junior year had just ended, and the future felt like it was coiled up in the hot, humid air of rural Pennsylvania. It was the first week of summer vacation in 2008, and my only priority was staying out late, driving too fast, and not thinking too hard about what came after senior year. I had just gotten my dad's old Chevy Lumina fixed. A boat of a car, forest green, with a squeaky fan belt and cassette players still jammed with Aerosmith. And on that night, I was heading home from a bonfire out near Hillside Quarry. It was just past midnight. The stars smeared across the sky, and Ridge Road stretched ahead like a black ribbon cutting through the woods. I'd taken that road 100 times. It was an old country backway, barely maintained, but it cut 20 minutes off the trip. Twisting, dark, and lined with trees so thick they felt like they were leaning in, watching you. I'd heard all the stories about Ridge Road. Every local had. The usual: car crashes, ghost lights, a girl in white. All just dumb crap people told to scare you. I didn't believe in any of that. Not until I saw her. I came around one of the sharper bends near the drop-off where the guardrail had been rusted out for years. That's when I saw her. A girl, maybe my age or a little older, walking along the shoulder in a long white dress, lit up perfectly in my headlights, like she'd been standing there waiting for me. Her hair was wet and hung in strings across her face. She didn't turn when the lights hit her, just kept walking, barefoot, slow. I tapped the brakes, heart hammering. She looked off, like she didn't belong. Something about the way her arms hung stiffly at her sides, or how her steps didn't quite match up with the gravel under her feet. I pulled up beside her and rolled down the passenger window. The night air rushed in, damp and too cold for June. "Hey, you okay?" I called. She stopped walking. That's when she turned. Her eyes met mine, and I felt like the world dropped out from under me. Her face was pale, soaked, and dirt-smeared, but her eyes, God, her eyes, they were solid black, not shadowed, not dark. Black, like a void had opened in her skull. I couldn't move. I couldn't look away. Her lips moved. No sound came out. Then she screamed. It wasn't like a sound I'd ever heard before. It wasn't human. It was shrill and layered, like dozens of voices all screaming from deep underwater. My ears rang. I slammed my foot on the gas and the tires spun out before catching. I sped off, heart jackhammering, hands clenched so tight on the wheel they went numb. I didn't look back. I couldn't. But I saw her reflection in the rearview mirror, still standing there in the middle of the road, arms raised, her mouth wide in that awful, silent scream. I got home shaking. I didn't sleep. I told myself I imagined it, that I was tired, high from bonfire smoke and adrenaline. I didn't mention it to anyone, not even my friends. But that wasn't the end. For the next few nights, every time I closed my eyes, I saw her, not just in dreams, on reflective surfaces, the car window, the bathroom mirror, just for a second, just standing there. And then the bruises started. First, small ones, on my arms, my legs. Then handprints, long, thin fingers, ice-cold skin touching mine in the middle of the night. I finally cracked and told my friend Corey. He looked at me like I was nuts, until he said, "You mean the girl from Ridge Road?" Apparently, she had a name. Elena Marlowe. Drowned in 1979. Car went off the bend near the quarry. The boy driving walked away. She didn't. Some say she was trying to flag someone down that night. Some say she never stopped. I thought telling someone would help, that maybe saying her name out loud would break whatever was happening. But that night, I woke up in my room to the sound of water dripping. The floor was soaked. My sheets clung to my skin. The temperature had dropped by 20 degrees. And there she was, standing in the corner. Closer this time. She stepped toward me, her wet feet slapping against the wood floor. 1 step, 2, 3. I tried to scream but couldn't make a sound. She crouched beside my bed, her face inches from mine, and she whispered, "You should have stopped. I don't drive Ridge Road anymore. Hell, I barely drive at night. I graduated, moved away, started a new life. But even now, all these years later, I still see her. When it rains, when I pass a lake, when headlights catch someone standing just a little too close to the road. And every time I hear that dripping sound in the middle of the night, I know she's coming back." You'd think summer break would feel like freedom. School ended that Friday. Hot, sticky air, the kind that makes your skin feel like it's melting, and everyone exploded into vacation mode. Except me. I just felt trapped. Not physically, emotionally. Like the whole year had wrapped around my chest and squeezed until I couldn't breathe. I was 17, going to be a senior at Pine Ridge High in the fall, but I already hated the place. The mold-stained ceilings, the reek of sweat and floor polish, the way Mr. Callahan always looked at us like we were prisoners and he was the warden. Maybe that's why I said yes when Danny suggested we break in. There were 4 of us, me, Danny, Jace, and Liz. Childhood friends turned teenage delinquents. We'd all joked about doing it one day, sneaking in after dark, tagging the hallways, setting off fire extinguishers. A middle finger to the place that had drained us year after year. So Saturday night, first weekend of summer, we met behind the school, armed with bolt cutters, spray paint, and flashlights. The moment I stepped through that rusted maintenance door, I felt it, like a cold wind threading through my spine. I should have turned back right then, but Liz laughed and sprayed "Suck It, PRHS" across the wall in red, and we all followed her in deeper. The school was different at night, the kind of quiet that hums, like a building still breathing when no one's watching. The floor tiles seemed too shiny, the lockers too tall, shadows too thick around the corners. We split up. Dumb, I know. Liz and Jace went to the gym. Danny and I took the second floor. We didn't even get past the science wing. It started with the smell, like rotting leaves and burnt hair. I remember gagging, shining my light down the hall and seeing nothing. Just that same bland row of classrooms and dusty posters peeling off the walls. Then Danny whispered, "Do you hear that?" I did, faint at first, like something dragging across tile. Long, slow, wet. We backed up toward the stairwell. I tried a joke, maybe a janitor, maybe a rat dragging a mop, but my voice cracked. Then we saw it. A girl, or what used to be one. She stepped into the hallway from one of the classrooms, maybe 10 feet away, pale, in an old-fashioned dress soaked to her knees, like she'd just climbed out of a pond. Her head hung too low, her hair dripping water that hissed as it hit the floor. I shined my flashlight on her face. She had none. No eyes, no mouth, just a smooth patch of skin. And yet, somehow, I felt her looking at me. Danny bolted. I turned to follow, but my legs locked. My light flickered, and in that split second, She was inches from me. I could feel the cold radiating off her like an open freezer door. And then she whispered, not with a mouth, she didn't have one, but in my head, "You don't belong here. You weren't buried." My scream echoed down the hallway as I stumbled back and fell. She didn't move. She just stood there, head tilted. More of them came then. A man missing half his skull, his jaw dangling loose. A boy no older than 10, skin mottled and gray, crawling on all fours. A woman with her hands sewn shut, fingers twitching against thread. All of them soaking wet. All of them wrong. I scrambled to my feet and ran, nearly breaking my neck down the stairs. Found Jace crying in the cafeteria, holding Liz's phone. The screen was cracked, covered in blood. "She's gone," he choked out. "Something pulled her into the floor. It just opened up." We ran, didn't wait for Danny, didn't check the gym, just busted out the side door and didn't stop until we hit the woods behind the school. The next morning, Liz's parents called the cops, said she never came home. Danny was found wandering the cornfield near Route 27, babbling about wet hands and the drowned mouths. They admitted him to a psychiatric hospital. I haven't spoken to Jace since. He moved to his aunt's place in Erie. Me? I tried to pretend it didn't happen, tried to sleep. But every night, I hear the voice, the whisper in the dark. "You weren't buried. You don't belong." I started digging into the school's history. Pine Ridge High was built in 1958, on top of a town that no longer exists. It was called Mill Hollow, washed away in the flood of '46. The town drowned. Dozens of bodies never recovered, swept into the earth. The school was built over the ruins like a tombstone no one remembers placing. I think the dead never left, and they don't want us there, especially not me. I still dream of the girl with no face, and every night she gets closer. Every night I hear her say it, over and over, "Get out." But I can't, because I think she's right. I don't belong. And when school starts again in the fall, she'll be waiting. The last day of school before a summer break. The air was thick with anticipation, the campus buzzing with the energy of everyone counting down the minutes until they could escape the confines of textbooks and endless lectures. I wasn't different, really. I was eager to leave, to get back to the familiar quiet of home after a year spent away. All I wanted was to hit the road, make the long drive back, and finally relax. But the road had other plans for me. It was just after midnight when I left the university parking lot, the scent of damp earth hanging in the night air. The engine of my old, reliable car hummed along smoothly as I merged onto Interstate 80, headlights cutting through the blackness. The kind of quiet you get when you're on a long, empty highway at night. The kind of peace you can almost feel in your bones. At least, that's how it was supposed to be. About 2 hours into the drive, my car started sputtering. I grimaced, easing off the gas pedal. It wasn't the first time I'd had engine trouble, but it was the first time it had happened on a deserted stretch of highway this late. The dashboard lights flickered, and the engine began to groan before it finally gave out completely. I pulled over to the side of the road, the lonely glow of my taillights casting long shadows against the asphalt. My stomach sank as I turned the key again, but it was no use. Dead. Perfect, I muttered under my breath, checking my phone. No service. Great. I considered my options. There was nothing to do but wait for help. or at least hope that someone would stop by and offer assistance. I stepped out of the car, the cool air cutting through the fabric of my jacket, and tried to make sense of the situation. The road stretched out before me like an endless tunnel of darkness. I looked down at my car, hoping somehow it would start up again on its own, but nothing happened. As I leaned against the hood, a pair of headlights appeared far down the road, slowly drawing closer. I felt a fleeting sense of relief. At least someone was coming. The truck was an old, rusted thing, a beat-up pickup that looked like it hadn't seen a wash in years. It slowed as it approached, and then the engine cut off completely as it came to a stop beside my car. I watched as the driver, a tall man with a scruffy beard and a worn flannel shirt, stepped out and approached me. "Need some help?" His voice was gruff, too deep for comfort. I hesitated, unsure. Something about him seemed off. "Yeah, my car died. I can't get it started, and my phone's not working. I was hoping you could call a tow truck or something." He looked me up and down, his gaze lingering a little too long. "You sure you don't need more than a tow?" The hairs on the back of my neck prickled. I swallowed hard. There was something in his tone, a flicker in his eyes, that made the air feel suddenly colder. "I'm good," I replied, backing away just a little. Without another word, he turned and walked back to his truck. That was when I saw it, a rifle resting against the seat of his pickup. The sight of it sent a chill through me, a spike of panic that surged up my spine. I couldn't make out the details, but I knew enough to know that wasn't something anyone should carry around on a dark, deserted highway. I stepped back, feeling my pulse start to race. My car was dead. I had no phone service, and now this guy with a rifle was giving me a bad feeling. "Hey," I called out, trying to sound casual, but my voice came out tighter than I intended. "You sure you don't want to help? I don't need anything too serious. Just a lift to the nearest town or..." Before I could finish, I saw the man's hand move. He pulled the rifle from the passenger seat, leveling it straight at me. I froze. What the hell? Without another word, he pulled the trigger. The crack of the rifle echoed through the empty night, a sharp, sickening sound. I didn't even realize I'd ducked until I was already scrambling back toward the tree line, my heart pounding in my chest. I ran, my feet pounding against the dirt, adrenaline kicking in. The man's laughter followed me as I pushed harder, trying to put distance between us. Behind me, I could hear the crunch of leaves as he followed, but it wasn't just his footsteps. There was something else, something heavier, something older. I didn't dare look back to see if it was just my fear making the night darker. I pushed through the underbrush, breath coming in short gasps, until the man's voice rang out behind me. "Run, kid. Keep running. I like a good chase." The words slithered through the air, seeping into my bones, making my skin crawl. But I didn't stop. Not even when the trees began to thin, not when I heard a car in the distance, pulling up to my abandoned vehicle. A car, a chance for help. My lungs burned, but I pushed forward, my legs nearly giving out as I forced myself to keep moving. I watched through the trees as a car slowed, the headlights flashing against the trunks of the trees. Someone else had stopped to help. Big mistake. From my hiding spot, I saw the man with the rifle step out of the shadows, lifting the weapon. There was a brief, muffled sound, then a body crumpling to the ground in a heap. The other driver didn't even have a chance to scream. I felt my stomach twist, my entire body frozen in horror as I watched the man reload the rifle, his eyes scanning the road, calculating the distance between me and him. He never saw me. Minutes later, I heard the sound of his truck's engine roaring to life. I waited, my heart a drumbeat in the silence. Then the rumble faded away into the night. I stayed there, crouched in the brush, trembling with the cold and terror, long after the truck had disappeared down the road. Finally, after what felt like hours, I ventured back toward my car, the lifeless body of the other driver still in plain view. But it was too late to turn back. There was no one left to help, and I knew I had to keep moving, just like the man with the rifle had wanted. In the end, I didn't just survive the night. I became part of it.